Welcome to the third edition of the Association's Unplugged podcast, which is powered by Kellen. It is election season in Brussels, which means that it is manifesto season for associations. And in a couple of minutes, we'll be talking to Céline Benini from AMFEP, that is an association for enzymes, about their manifesto, about how they are cutting through the noise. You've got to pity the MEPs. I mean, once the votes are counted, they are going to be inundated with manifestos. So how do you make sure that you get your message across? That's the overall theme of today's discussion. I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Bond. He's the publishing director with the Parliament magazine. Dan, most MEPs are not going to read these manifestos. Does it even make sense for an association to put one together?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be on the show. Does it make sense to put together a manifesto? I would say yes. Are MEPs necessarily going to sit there and, as you say, read a 16-page document? Potentially not. But I think they are a valuable and useful part of a wider communication and engagement strategy with MEPs. I think that they can form a foundation for your communication strategy over the long term. They can help you order your thoughts and your key messages. So yes, I think they're worth doing, but don't do them expecting them to be a silver bullet that's gonna immediately have MEPs aligning with your objectives.
What are the components of a good manifesto?
I would say it's important that your key asks are concise and clear. I would prioritise. There is nothing worse than saying, here are our 17 key policy asks. You should really keep it down to 3 or 4. And I would make sure that they are then communicated beyond just the initial publication of the manifesto. Pull out your key 3 or 4 asks. Make sure you're promoting those asks across multiple channels, online, social events, physical copies. So yeah, that would be what I would say would be the key.
You often hear from MEPs and policymakers that lobbyists, associations can come late in the process with their requests. Isn't this something that it should be easy for associations to avoid?
Yeah, I would say it's never too early to start your communications with an MEP or with MEPs. I mean, you ask about is it worth doing a manifesto? I think as part of a good communication strategy, a manifesto would never be the first starting point where you would be getting in touch with MEPs. I think you've got to develop over a period of time trust, a reputation as a willing partner, and as someone with expertise, someone with authority, someone who is willing to help MEPs, provide them with information. And at that point, if you then do down the line have some specific policy asks, you're in a better position for them to engage and to listen to you. Okay,
absolutely. One thing that's coming up, I mean, many commentators are predicting quite a shift to the right in the next parliament. Does that change things for associations? Do they need to adapt their communication strategy to address that?
Yes, I mean, I think there certainly is going to be a change in the next European Parliament. I think we are going to have more populist MEPs. I think we are going to have more far-right MEPs. But I also think it's a mistake to view that as to view those MEPs as a homogenous block. Populism is more an approach to doing politics than it is an indicator of where you sit on the political compass, I would say. You're going to have MEPs that could be grouped together as on the right, that will have very divergent views on things. And some of those MEPs could absolutely be allies in your campaigns. There will be a wide range of views among that group around European strategic autonomy, European competitiveness, jobs, supporting industry, cleaning up our oceans, conservation, reducing waste. These are all. There's going to be plenty of areas where you can build common cause with MEPs, and you can make sure that you're building a coalition around the the objectives that you care about.
Let's say an association wants to make a particular MEP their ally. How should they go about that?
Well, I think, first of all, you need to identify the right MEP. If you want an MEP to be your ally, or if you want an MEP to be your ambassador, you're going to want that to be an MEP that shares your values and your objectives, and that, I suppose, has influence in that sector. If they don't have those things, then I would suggest that might not be the best MEP in order to target to make it an ally for you. So it's about doing your research, identifying the priorities of an MEP, what they care about, what makes them tick, what are they looking for. And if you can do that and you can find common cause with what you're looking to achieve with that MEP, that would be the starting point. Once you've done that, it's about dialogue. It's about starting a dialogue with that MEP. What are you looking for? How can we help you? What are the objectives that you're looking to achieve? And how can we work together? If you do that and you're willing to, and you find an MEP that is willing to help you, then I think you will find someone that is happy to be a spokesperson, an ambassador for your cause, the front person for your cause, that will want to speak at your events or speak at your media speaking opportunities.
You've spoken a lot about communication. Are associations investing enough in associations? To me, it seems like they're quite behind the curve when you compare them, let's say, with some of the campaigns run by NGOs.
Yeah, I think it's changing. I think more and more associations are realising the power of good communication and the importance of good communication. And as I said, why that can't be done, why that needs to be done early and as much as possible. Why you can't wait until it's too late. Well, you can't wait until there's already some legislation or something coming down the line that's going to affect you, and you think, now I need a communication strategy. A communication strategy is something you need to be doing all the time, and that needs to adapt for sure, and it needs to change in the political circumstances. But it's not something you can turn on and off. It's something that needs to be an ongoing process, and I think that's something that associations are starting to realise.
But are the resources that they're allocating to this sufficient?
I don't want to speak to the individual. For some, sure, and I think, as I said, I think that more and more they are looking to professionalise. Whether they're doing that in house, whether they're doing that through partnerships, I certainly see a change there, and I think that trend is going to continue.
You, I would imagine, have a lot of experience getting MEPs to read your material. Tell us a bit about the Parliament magazine. How do you go about that?
So the Parliament magazine is the magazine for the European Parliament. We publish a monthly print magazine, we have a website, we have a newsletter, and we really try to shine a light on the policy conversations and policy developments around Europe, and bring that information to people working in the EU institutions so that they can better do their jobs. To really sort of foster that debate on how do we develop the best policy that's going to work for European citizens. We do that through our content, but we also do that through events as well. We run events in Brussels and Strasbourg, and as part of that, we're very privileged to partner with associations regularly on bringing their expertise and their thoughts into that process. They are really a key player in the Brussels bubble. So we work a lot. With them, and we're really happy to advise them on how to do that.
Okay. Do you think that associations could, maybe try to bring some innovation into their communication strategy? I mean, they're naturally going to be very conservative, but you see a lot of write the position paper, we send it out, we send the press release. Isn't there more that they could be doing?
For sure. I mean, and there's some really, there are associations that are doing that. There's associations, and we've partnered with some that have done exhibitions, photo exhibitions, art exhibitions, events that move beyond the here's a panel and we're going to give you a presentation and you're going to sit there and listen. So I do think there's a role for innovating. I think events can play a really important part there. I think we are all bombarded with information all the time and we're all sat in front of screens. And I think if you can find creative and innovative ways to do events where you can have the undivided attention of a group of policymakers for 45 minutes. It's not going to be much longer than that, I'm afraid. You can have a meaningful in-person conversation with them, and if you can find innovative ways to do that, then I would say that's something you should be looking at.
At the same time, a lot of associations tell me that it's just much harder to get the attention, to get access to MEPs than in the past. Generally, many MEPs are less inclined to engage with industry than, let's say, 10 years ago. Has that been your experience as well?
I think there's something in that. I think, but as I said at the top of the show, I think that if you can identify how your objectives align with the objectives of MEPs, and if you can find common cause with them, and you can produce communications material for them that makes them look good, and that shows them that you have shared objectives, I think they will be willing to engage.
Does it also have something to do with being involved in the bigger picture discussions about European competitiveness or about the Green Deal, rather than focusing on the narrow concerns of your own industry?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you have a niche interest, which lots of associations will, there will be MEPs that will share an interest and a passion in that topic, but there will also be a much larger number of MEPs that may not be experts in the chemical industry, for example, but that will certainly be looking to achieve some objectives in reducing waste, cleaning up our environment and our oceans, boosting European competitiveness and jobs, European strategic autonomy, manufacturing. And if you can find ways that where you have a story to tell, where you can show that you are contributing to achieving those broader EU objectives, and it happens to be you're doing that through the chemical industry, then I think you're going to have more luck engaging with MEPs, and they're going to be more receptive to viewing you as a partner.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you keep coming back to is don't be late in the process. And that's what MEPs and policymakers often say as well. But you've got to appreciate that, the majority of an association's time will be spent actually putting the position together, aligning with their members and so on. So, I mean, is it about being more efficient with that process so that you have the position out there when it really needs to be out there?
Yeah, look, it's difficult. You're putting together a position. You can't have a comms strategy unless you have a concise and clear message, because otherwise it's going to be a confusing comms strategy. And the starting point really of any engagement or comms strategy is, what do I want MEPs to feel and grasp and understand and take away from this? So you need that message to be clear and concise. Pulling a clear and concise position and out of a membership organisation that has 24 members spread across several different countries, I appreciate it's probably not an easy task. So I do understand that these things need to be done in the right order, but I would certainly advise that don't wait until it's too late until you start communicating.
Dan Bond, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've just had a general perspective on manifestos from associations, and now we're going to look at a particular case study, and I am delighted to be joined by Céline Benini. She is Senior Manager for Associations at Kellen, and she's also the Secretary General of AMFEP, which is an association for the enzyme industry. And now, I have come across lots of associations representing various obscure industries, but surely an association for enzymes is taking things too far.
Well, I wouldn't say it's that obscure, but that's probably because people, they don't know really the importance that enzymes have for your everyday life. So you have them more or less everywhere. First, in nature, because they sustain life. You cannot have life without enzyme. And then they are used also industrial level to help producing your food, and also other important product like textile and detergent. So it's not that obscure, actually.
Sure. But I guess you have a communications challenge in making this concrete. How do you do that?
So first, as I said, there are not a lot of awareness. In general, people, they remember enzyme maybe a bit from school, maybe. So indeed, for us, it's very important to re-explain everything. So what they are to start with, and how they are used. So during the food manufacturing process, and then why they are present in some product like detergent. So we are really explaining everything from scratch. So what they consist in and what they do for you.
And in terms of what they do, can they make certain processes more sustainable? Can they contribute to these discussions on the Green Deal and so on? Do you have an example of where enzymes are a sort of hero that makes somebody spend less resources than they otherwise would?
Yes, I have many examples, actually. So by their nature, they really foster sustainability. So first, they are biodegradable. And then they are what we call biocatalysts. So they make specific biochemical reaction happen faster than they would have otherwise. And this is a property which is very interesting for the industry. So thanks to that, they can help you save energy, save water consumption, consumption of harmful chemical. They help you avoid waste and raw material consumption. So, for example, in detergent, they are when you have a detergent with enzyme, you can wash at a lower temperature than you could do if they are not there. So, like 30 degrees and less. And in the food sector, for example, in the production of fruit juices and brewing, they can help you increase the yield. So you decrease your raw material consumption. You also have baking time is reduced when you use them, so you are saving energies. And there are many, many examples like this one. And
so your members are companies that produce these type of enzymes?
Yes, so they produce, so we have a bit of a mix of members. We have those who produce the enzyme, and then you have the formulators who are buying the enzyme and doing the formulation which is put on the market.
Okay, cool. It sounds like you have developed a passion for enzymes. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
We are very passionate when we talk about enzymes.
Okay. We're talking about manifestos here. I've read your manifesto.
Yeah.
You've put one together. How do you make politicians care about what your members are doing?
So first, we are doing this awareness campaign. So we started a couple of months ago, maybe 1 year ago, because we realized that people were forgetting that enzyme exists and what they were doing. So we were doing first this awareness on the social media mainly, but also by already meeting people, because there are some things in the pipeline which are nearly finalized, like the revision of the detergent regulation and the green claim. So this gave us the possibility to already voice our concern and to start preparing for the next term. So that's what we did. And then, it was really crucial to re-explain that what they are doing, actually, they, without knowing, the majority of the time, they were also targeting us. And the problem is that we are part of a chain. And if you impact the enzyme, you can have dramatic consequences for the downstream user, which are very many. So I think that if we take that angle, it's also it's important for them to realize that we are important, even if we are niche.
Yeah. And so are you building coalitions with other organizations that represent that various parts of that chain?
Yes, indeed. So we have a coalition with the detergent industry, with the biotech industries, but we also need to make our own voice heard. We need to have a voice and it needs to be heard.
I'm told that there was a time when policymakers would draft legislation just for one particular industry. So from the trade association point of view, they would get a call from the regulators or people at the commission, and they would just need to give their feedback. It's very different now, right? You're talking about transversal pieces of legislation impacting lots of different industries. So I guess that's a challenge for you as well.
Yeah, they clearly don't call us to have our input, that's for sure. So yes, we need to fight a bit to make our place on this big advocacy sphere. And yeah, sometimes we indeed use our downstream user in coalition because it's easier. They have more weight than we have. They have more contacts. Sometimes we can use them. But yeah, I think that recently we started also to have our own contacts who realized that it's important to also hear sometimes the smaller one to have the full picture. So, but yeah, it's not coming to us. We need to go and provide our input.
One complaint that you often hear from policymakers is that people in advocacy, lobbyists or representatives from associations are arriving late in the process. And I think it can be challenging because associations need to put a lot of time actually developing the position, aligning their members on that position. Is there a way to make that more efficient so that you can really be early in the process?
The problem is sometimes it depends on how it is worded in the policy. Like if I take the example of the Green Deal, initially we could think that, well, the enzyme were the euro of Europe. And then suddenly there were other pieces of legislation coming from the Green Deal, like the chemical strategy for sustainability. And there we get from the Euro statutes to the kind of enemy without a purpose. But yeah, at the end, it was a bilateral damage.
Hero to zero.
Yeah, basically, yes, without them knowing.
No, but that changed things. But again, I guess you needed to address that and be quite flexible to build your messaging around a new legislative approach, which they didn't even realize that they were putting out. Yeah,
what is good in a sense is that for the moment, what they do is that each time they are developing a new policy, it's often hazard-based policy, which is a problem for us.
Yeah.
So let's say that because they are using this kind of consistency in the hazard-based approach that they are applying, our position don't need to be that much changed. But indeed, we needed time to analyze the chemical strategy for sustainability, to understand the impact on us, and to indeed build our position, and also what would be the impact for the downstream application, because it depends from one application to the other. So indeed, it took time. I would not say a year, but nearly, and it needed to be adapted.
What advice would you give to other associations as they are putting their manifesto together?
So I would say that it's important to have it as a must-have and a nice-to-have, because in our case, actually, it was really the case. We needed it. And I would say also to be quite detailed in so not very broad requests. You need to really have something clear to say and to explain what would be the impact if this is not achieved. I think you need to be extra clear and, of course, be able to back what you are saying. It's important for the credibility of association in general and to your industry, of course.
Yeah, I would say that that's a massive part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a bit more about the communications activities that you're going to implement around this.
So what we are doing. So first, you need to know that we were not very much proactively talkative in the past, which is weird because we love talking about enzyme. We love it.
That's the impression I'm getting.
And we love having discussion with a policymaker to explain better. So it's really it's a bit of a paradox why we never embrace.
You weren't doing the thing that you love to do.
Yes, it's strange. Okay.
And it seems the thing that you should be doing.
Yeah, maybe we were too busy with the agenda. But well, now we understood that awareness is really key, because otherwise you have consequences that are really bad.
Yeah.
So what we are going to do, so we, as you could see, maybe, is we are starting developing our social media, mainly LinkedIn, to explain, as I said, enzyme and application, but also to explain a bit about the association, but it's not that many people knows about AMFEP. So we are also explaining the association. And then we are trying to also reach out to the media, to explain, to put enzyme a bit more under the spotlight, because this is also a first for us.
Yeah, I would say there's a kind of storytelling element here to really make your messages stick and resonate with people, make it concrete. Céline, tell me about the social media strategy that you've developed around this manifesto.
So we are doing two different things. So we are doing the awareness about Enzyme and about the association. So we re-explain everything what Enzyme are, what they do in various production processes and in various products. We do it with infographics to simplify a bit the whole explanation, and we do it with video and also quotes from members. So we have highlight on the members, and they explain what the enzyme is doing in the process. So that's the series we are doing for the moment in food processing. And then for the manifesto itself, we also ask our members to contribute with video, because it's also create more visibility when it's our member talking. And we also use any possible occasion to remind of the existence of our manifesto. For example, there was recently the Commission published a communication about biotechnology and biomanufacturing, and so as they are calling for a better regulatory framework to encourage innovation, this is completely echo with our manifesto. So we could use this and remind that, well, this is also part of our manifesto. So we have different little possibilities for the promotion.
Okay, there's a lot going on. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. We really have a lot of followers, a lot of impressions. It's really good.
Okay, and you were saying that there has been a transition at the association. You were very enthusiastic about speaking about enzymes, maybe not doing it enough, but that's changing now.
Yes, so they were always a bit of reluctance in the beginning because they don't understand what it can bring, what it can do, and then now they are super enthusiastic. They all want to be featured, and so yeah.
Once you started, it really gave them some momentum,
yes. You need to show them that it's actually working. And then they are completely enthusiastic.
Okay, very interesting. I guess you need to have a lot of facts and figures, data to support what you're doing. Do you work with reports from your members, or do you develop them yourself?
So we do several things. So we can use our member data to start with, but then we also commission our own studies. So for example, we're conducting for the moment LCA studies for several applications to back what we are saying about sustainability benefits of using enzymes. We also commission other study on safety, on biodegradability, and everything. We want to make it peer-reviewed so we can publish and so it can be available for everybody. So yeah, we want to make sure that people believe what we are saying.
Presumably, you have members in different parts of Europe. Do you focus on the national dimension of European policymaking as well as the Brussels dimension? Do you try to coordinate your approach between those two sides? Enzyme,
it's a bit particular. So we don't have national association, for example, as member. It's only companies. And there are not so many national law about enzymes. So if I look at food enzyme, for example, you have only 2 countries where they have their national laws, France and Denmark. And so we are not active at those level. It's more member putting enzyme in the market there. So we are really focused on the EU sphere.
Okay, fine. The manifesto, it seems like it's quite concise, right? I mean, I went through it. Did you think about how your association can contribute to the bigger picture discussions? For instance, on the Green Deal, on sustainability, what your contribution is there?
The manifesto is indeed quite concise because we wanted it to be concise, actually. We wanted for people to understand clearly without being lost in too many information. And you need to see it as a guide which we will use throughout the new term of the Commission and the Parliament. And so it's sufficiently broad to also cover what is in the pipeline and what is cooking, like revision of REACH, for example.
How important is it to identify your audience? Because I would imagine there's a small number of people in the Commission, at the Parliament, who are really concerned with this. Have you done that? Have you done a stakeholder mapping?
So we are doing it for each different dossier because it's for the same people, except at the Commission levels often it's the same people, but for the Parliament it's different, depending on the rapporteur, the shadows. And so this we have the key contacts, but because we are very small, For the moment, we were more targeting the rapporteur and the shadows to be sure that our message goes through. And then for the rest, for larger advocacy, we have coalition to help us bring the message, which is in general broader. But if we already get the chance to discuss with the rapporteur, it already create a difference. And we had this change for a couple of dossiers, so we saw that it's working.
Before you released the manifesto, did you have a discussion about whether you should do it in advance of the elections or whether you should do it afterwards?
We wanted to have it in advance. So it's not that we had a big discussion on it. We wanted to have in advance to already be able to contact key people that we wanted them to be aware of us. And we know that when the election will be done, we need to do it quickly. So we wanted to have something prepared, something that will guide us throughout the whole process and for the next full year.
Now, of course, we shouldn't forget that you are supporting an association as an association management company, which means that you're supporting not you personally, but the organization. Kellen is supporting lots of other associations as well. Do you think that brings some benefits, or is there a difference between the sort of in-house and the association management company model?
Well, I would say that it really depends from one association to the other. But what is good with Kellen is that we offer all the services. So they can of course do it à la carte, let's say. So they can choose what they want, but we can also offer the whole package. We have in-house finances, for example. So that's easy for them to not to think about those the finance and financial aspect. We have also the assistant in-house, and then we have a lot of different profile in Kellen, like scientific people, legal people, and so it's easy to create the matching team. So I think it's a very good model.
Céline, Benini, thanks for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.